wondering why everything going on in the world feels so terribly off,
Give me a
then
long
you've
one.
come to the right place. A veil has been put over the eyes of humanity. Evil people in high places have been hiding the truth in plain sight and building a false reality on lies and deception for far too long. And now, their time is coming to an end. It's time to fight back, to wake up, and to begin an uprising. Now is a time for judgment.
We shall propose further cooperative effort between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
This happened in America. American problem. And we're all Americans. Everybody has an obligation to help. We have the capacity to do this. It's not like it's beyond our control. The weather may be beyond our control for now, but it's not beyond our control. It's not like it's beyond our control. The weather may be beyond our control for now.
Mentioned the drought. Of course, we have the extreme and exceptional drought here across North Texas, out west as well. That's where it's been quite dry. Those sections of California, a little bit of a break in the Pacific Northwest.
The wildfire risk is so high because the landscape is tinder dry. Almost every part of the UK had less rain than normal over the last month, with a significant rainfall deficit. Just the west and north of Scotland have been wet. If you're in the south or east of England, you won't be surprised to hear it's been extremely dry. In fact, July and the start of August have been the driest on record. Scientists call it a meteorological drought, and it goes back many months. This is the map for the last year, and again, it's the south and east of England, and also part of the northeast, that have had much less rain than usual. That's having a big impact on rivers. These are the monitoring sites for water flow in rivers across England. Where the dots are red, it's below normal for the time of year, and if they're dark red, the river flow is exceptionally low. From Cornwall to Northumberland, the drought is beginning to bite. Take the River Thames at Windsor. The beige band shows the normal water flow for the time of year, higher in the winter, lower in the summer. The black line is this year's data. In March, the flow was healthy, but it's been dropping fast ever since, now well into the red zone and still falling.
This is a time for judgment. Welcome to today's show. While everybody's distracted by all of the stuff going on with the FBI, with Trump, keeping everybody in the left-right divide, thinking their vote coming up is going to matter, we are going through one of the biggest droughts in American history and around the world. It's not just America. The UK is literally drying up. Spain, literally drying up. Now, when you hear this narrative come from somebody's mouth, when somebody says it on the TV, they'll just immediately start talking about climate change because that's what they want you to think it's from. They want you to think that you're responsible for all of this stuff. That the carbon emissions and all this stuff, that's why we need carbon footprints and all these things to control and monitor our behavior so that we can save the environment. The reality of the matter is that all of these things are happening, all of these droughts are occurring, all of these bizarre storm patterns are occurring because they have the ability to control, told us they've had the ability to control the weather for a long time. This goes to geoengineering, to chemtrailing, to all of it. It's all being blamed on the boogeyman known as climate change. They want you to think that this exists. They want you to think that you and me, and we're all in this together because we're all responsible for it. But thankfully, a hero will rise out of the ashes and be able to feed us and give us water. I'm sure when this all starts to really, really manifest, they'll start blaming it on God probably. And they'll say, oh, where's God now, and we need, man can step up and man can do this, and the government can do this. The Antichrist can come and feed people and help people survive with nutritious foods and water that they need to live because they can't survive without it. But the reality is they're creating this scenario through all of the stuff that we've all covered over the years. We've all talked about chemtrailing forever and ever and ever. We've all talked about weather manipulation and weather control forever and forever and forever. So when people used to watch videos or read about it and research it, they'd read stuff about what happened in Vietnam with weather control, realizing they have the ability to do it. People like me would come out and we would talk about, well, they have the ability to do it, so why wouldn't they do it? They will do it. And what they will do is cause a famine. They will cause drought. They will cause all of these things so that people become dependent on the government. so that people will take a mark so that they can be able to buy, sell, eat, and live. But they had to create it first. So now we actually see it going on. Because this is really the first time that we're seeing this massive push for climate change. We've heard about it. Now we're seeing massive government spending bills being put in place, and we know Agenda 2030 is all about this. And this whole thing is about control. The climate change agenda is about total control of you, in the illusion that it has to do with all of us, right? They had to have something that can tie all of us together. They have the technology to create this so they can blame it on an invisible boogeyman. That's what they always need, because if you realize that the government was causing droughts, was causing famine, was using weather not to help steer hurricanes and storms away or to make it rain when it couldn't rain and people had droughts, but they were using it to create droughts, and they were using it to create destruction with hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. The people would go right to Washington and this would be over very fast. All the people around the world would go to their governments and this would be over really fast. So they had to create an invisible boogeyman. That's what they've created. So now you're seeing it happening. And people are going, oh, well, yeah, the government has the ability to, do they have the ability to control the weather? Right? Then you go through stuff and show it to them. You show them things like Operation Popeye and what they did in Vietnam. And people go, is that real? Yeah, it's real. It was a weaponized weather that we used with cloud seeding during Vietnam. Look it up. Operation Popeye. It's not hard to forget. Like Popeye the Sailor Man. Highly classified program attempted to extend the monsoon season. Okay, they attempted to extend the monsoon season by cloud seeding. Okay, so they have the ability to stop these droughts from occurring. We already know that because they've created things like this Operation Popeye. They have the ability to manipulate the weather. They've told us this from JFK all the way down to Congress discussing these things with chemtrailing and what they're trying to do in HAARP, et cetera, et cetera. So if the government cared about all of us, instead of telling us to go take a magic potion, they would say, hey, we're going to step in here, and we're going to fix the weather, we're going to do this, we're going to make sure there's no droughts, and everyone's going to have food, because food's the most important thing in the world. Even though we're all arguing over nonsense, these should focus on food and water, or we'll all die. That's what a functioning government should really do. We don't have that. We don't have functioning governments. We have governments that are destroying the government structures to bring in their New World Order government, which is just full-on slavery and control. So I'm going to show you some stuff here that you all should see. But what's going on around the world, not just in America, is this massive drought. Lakes are drying up. Water supplies are extremely low. Crops are dying. They're not growing. And this adds into all the stuff they're already doing with Ukraine, telling us, oh, there's food shortages because we can't get the wheat because of Putin. Huh? What? We can't grow wheat? And like, oh, well, we could try to grow wheat. Oh, but there's a drought. How convenient that all these things are happening at once. All these things when they're creating a civil war in America, all of it happening at once, and people still aren't suspicious. All of us have been saying for decades that they are going to create massive weather events in order to control the people. People are like, they would never do that. Oh, they wouldn't? Look what their media is doing now with the citizens. All they're doing is driving everyone into mental health crises with locking people up, quarantining people, then causing people to hate one another. If they turn the TV off, they'd see none of this is actually occurring. The stuff with climate change, where they tell you, well, it's so hot and things like that. Oh, okay, well, that's not really what the main concern is. The main concern is that they're causing these droughts when they could actually prevent these droughts if they wanted to prevent these droughts. They don't want to. And they want to blame it on you so that they could come in and be the hero, even though they're the ones responsible for all the chaos that's going on in the world. This stuff...
Hey guys, I'm Phil Picardi. I'm Darian Sutton. And we're really
Oh
excited.
my gosh, my voice changed. Shut up.
Even though they're the ones responsible for all the chaos that's going on in the world. This stuff is legit and it's real. And if you think these people don't want to control you and control food and control water, you're out of your mind. They've talked about it for centuries. Be able to control the food and the water, be able to control man. But people are just so naive, they're like, they wouldn't want to control us. There's just really bad people in this country, really bad regular Joes who hate one another, but the government's here to protect you. They're the ones who cause all the division. They're the ones who are causing all the droughts. They're the ones who are causing everything so that they can gain control over us. Like I've said a million times, we all have seen all these movies, all these shows talking about empires, Roman Empire. They just show you all this stuff. And people look at it like, wow, that's really scary back then. Roman Empire, man, I can't believe people were so wicked and they wanted to, oh, but they've changed so much. These people, because of what? They wear suits instead of walking around with swords? They're supposed to be here to help us and protect us because they look, look at the corporate family in a suit, the Bidens, the Trumps, It's the same thing with a different look. And this empire is going to crumble, this empire known as America. And this is going to happen all around the world because they want everyone to have to be dependent on this new world order government to survive. So when we talk about weather manipulation, when I say we, all of us, because we all know what's going on, and you see these droughts going on, all one has to do, and you hear Biden say stuff about, oh, we don't have the ability to, the weather, we can control, what? Oh, you mean you can't control the weather? We know you can. But they want to use trigger terms like we have an obligation to help. All of us have an obligation to help. So we all need to enslave ourselves to help. We all need to do this for humanity. We all need to stay locked up. We all need to wear masks. We all need to do this stuff for the atmosphere. That's what they want to tell you, but it's really about accepting slavery. That's what it's about. It's not about helping the atmosphere. They're the ones who are destroying it. All of them on purpose. On purpose. There's a reason they're underground. They've built all these underground cities and tunnels because they're going to destroy what's up here. And they're going to create droughts and all this stuff. And they have all the food that they need stockpiled. They don't have to worry. They want us to worry. And then they want us to go begging to them. And they're going to say, yeah, we'll give you food and water, but you got to take this mark. And you want to function in society? You got to take this mark. And we'll give you little rations of Soylent food, which is people. Right? Because sooner or later, too, they're going to tell you that we could just use people and eat people who are deceased and use their bodies because it's environmentally friendly. And these idiots will go along with it, not realizing that this all is biblical. This is the way that all of these Satanists have always operated in society. They're cannibals. They hate humanity. They hate children. And they want control of you. Here are some clips. If you think that all this stuff is crazy. Going back, talking about being able to manipulate the weather, control the weather, and create what they're doing right now. Take a look.
Was your brother. When Caleb introduced himself, it was as Dylan's.
Yes, sir. Another question on the in an interview with the Los Angeles Times on April 21st, you said that you told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest. Would you explain what you were trying to say?
Well, what I was trying to say is exactly what I said. There is weather control techniques. We have a complete package on that, which I did not bring, but I certainly will see to it that it is brought in for the record. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only does it exist, but that we even utilize it as far back as the Vietnam War. You might want to touch base with Senator Pell.
I just want to repeat before I turn to...
So yes, but we do have all that information.
You're saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans
worldwide.
Millions of Americans and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
I'd like to ask a couple questions here about HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HARP?
Thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past. We took over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed.
Weather modification programs, experimental ones done by private companies, done by the United States government, done by states across the United States are underway. There's more than 50 of them in operation across the United States. All of these impact agriculture because they change the microclimates needed for agriculture to survive. None of these programs that I know of today, and this is all public record, are available at any time with oversight, agricultural oversight or public oversight.
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day, this lecture hall will be made of code. And though they're virtual students, what they'll learn together is real. A surgeon will be able to practice as many times as needed in the metaverse before laying her hands on a real patient. These students aren't really back in 32 BCE, but they can still watch Mark Antony debate in ancient Rome. The metaverse may be...
Shut up, don't push the metaverse.
With oversight, agricultural oversight or public oversight. These programs impact agriculture, and there are programs around the world, international corporations are modifying our weather all the time, and they're modifying it in ways that cover thousands and thousands of square miles. Most of it is chemically altered, so that what happens is that we are putting chemicals, ground-based chemicals that are shot into the air, or chemicals coming from airplanes that change and modify our weather. So one of the things that I'm concerned about and that we need to address in the future is how these programs are impacting microclimates needed for our crops to survive and needed for pollination. If we change the growing season, the pollinators may not survive, and also our crops, our flowers, and our tree crops